विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यभिमः योगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ Verse 229 चिदाभासे स्वतः कोऽपि ज्वरो नास्ति यतश्चितः प्रकाशैकस्वभावत्वम् एव दृष्टं न चेतरत्. So Vidyaranya has come to the very final portion of this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad mantra 4.4.12. Atmanam chet vijanyat ayamasmi iti purushah kimichan kasya kamaya shariram anusanjvaret. So out of these four portions of this mantra, we discussed the three portions. Of course, the first line indicates the nature of the knowledge. Atmanam chet vijanyat ayamasmi iti. The knowledge, the self-knowledge is in this form. Ayam asmi, aham asmi. This aparoksha, immediate self, which is self-evident, self-existent, is myself. One who knows the Satchit is oneself can tell that. There is no one other can tell like this. Because even the body is not self-existent. And the mind is not self-existent. The senses are not self-existent. The self-existent is this consciousness, which shines on its own glory. And therefore, one who has the clear understanding that I am Satchit, he alone can say, I am aham asmi iti. So, Atmanam vijaniyat ayam aham asmi iti is the nature of knowledge. Then the result of this knowledge has been told in the next line. And kimichan kasya kamaya shariram anusanjvaret, we discussed this thing. Kimichan, desiring what? And where is the desire, etc. Also, both the things. I mean, the desiring what indicates a negation of the bhogya vishaya. And desire, I mean, all those desires are for whose sake? Means when bhokta also is negated. When the bhokta and bhogya are negated, automatically the link between the two, called bhoga, the experience, also is negated. And that's how the triad is negated by which is the nature of knowledge. Because all the three, when you negate your bhokta, bhogyam and bhoga, well, that is the clarity of the knowledge. If you take yourself to be a bhokta, well, due to ignorance, then definitely the bhogyam will be different from you. And so bhokta and bhogyam are different, therefore the bhoga also will be different. So that when the triad exists, for the person as a reality, that person really doesn't know. Triad exists at experiential level, empirical level, but I am the one who is distinct from all the three. I transcend all the three, whereas basically I am, pervading all the three and transcending all the three. Well, then that is called the knowledge. All the three are non-separate from me, but I am the one who is distinct from all the three. I am just a sakshi. I am not ahankara, bhokta, etc. Well, that is the knowledge. Kimichan kasya kamaya indicates that. Anyway, and then Shariram Anusanjvaret. So now we are discussing in this mantra itself, he has come to Shariram Anusanjvaret. So Jnana Phalam is a freedom from Anujvara. We are today going to discuss this. Anujvara is a samsara actually. And so that is Shariram, Kimichan Kasya Kamaya Shariram Anusanjvaret. Shariram Anu. So following this body, etc. Well, so Anujvara means the person who gains this knowledge becomes free from Anujvara. He becomes free from samsara. Vidyarthi explained Jvara very well. Jvara means basically a problem. A respective problem to the respective body is called Jara. Why respective problem to the respective body? Because all the three types of bodies are there. And what are the respective problems at every level also has been discussed. In Sthula Sharira Jvara has been discussed in verse number 224. Sukshma Sharira Jvara has been discussed in 225. And Karana Sharira Jvara, which is very unique thing in Pancadasi, is Karana Sharira Jvara. The problems pertaining to the Karana Sharira also has been discussed in verse number 226. Anyway, and then he made a general remarks regarding Jvara. But before I go further, I would really like to discuss how this samsara takes place, how this Anujvara comes. Definitely Jvara will be there, then only Anujvara can come. But I would like to discuss with you a certain mechanism regarding this cause of a Anujvara, cause of a samsara. And for that matter, I will have to go back to the creation. So Brahman basically, or here we call Sakshi, but right now you take it as a Brahman right now because I'm discussing the cause of the creation. Therefore, I should not say Sakshi is a cause of creation. Of course, Sakshi is a Brahman. And so I will use the word Brahman for a time being. And so Brahman is the cause of the universe and the universe is the effect. And the emergence of this effect basically from the cause is called creation. And Brahman is nature of Satchidananda. And any product which we call Nama Rupa, the creation, it does not exist substantially. So the whole world is nothing but these names and forms. They do not have any substance. They are basically incidental attributes to the Brahman. Like whenever I say like that, you should always take up in your mind some name and form. You may be taking a name and form called wave, or you take a ornament, or you take a pot, or whatever you like. Basically, that name and form is just an incidental attribute of the substance. Name and form is not a substance. So we should always remember when we discuss this world, which consists of various names and forms, well, those names and forms are non-substantial. Basically they arise from the substance. A pot which is a name and form, which is non-substantial, arises from the substance called clay. Clay is a substance, not pot is a substance. Pot is a non-substantial. To appreciate the world as a mithya, one should have a clear understanding about the names and forms, nature of the names and forms. When you names and forms, you understand clearly as a non-substantial. To understand them as mithya, to understand them as just an appearance and disappearance of the substance will be easier. If you can't appreciate this, I am sure you will not be able to appreciate world as a mithya. You will take world as a concrete, substantial. So, here also Brahman is the substance, Satchidananda, and all the names and forms basically they are nothing but they exist in Brahman in potential form before the creation, because what is in the potential form alone can come into manifestation. This is where we differ from Nayayikas. Nayayikas say, the substance basically, the world, varieties of the names and forms, they are really substance, they are created from the respective elements which were there in the form of atoms. So the atoms unite together. Two atoms unite together to make a dyad, and then three dyads unite together to make a triad, and like that it comes to the gross form. And ultimately, so any given substance in the creation is really created. It is not a manifestation, it is created. It was not there in a potential form, it was just an atom only, but from those atoms only the thing is created. Whereas we and the Sankhyas believe that the whole, whatever the names and forms in this creation are there, they were potentially existing in the substance, and from there only it manifests. So basically it comes into manifestation. And because we and but what is the basis for you to think like that? What is potentially there comes into manifestation? You are saying it on basis of what? Well, we go by science. We can take a support of science, or even if we need not, but we can do that. And that the basic the law is nothing in the creation can be created or destroyed. If anything can be destroyed, you can create, or well, then the creation also is real. But what was there only just manifest and goes back to the unmanifest, again manifest. That is what even Bhagavan also says, avyaktar vyaktaya sarvaha prabhavanti aharagame. And scientists also say not an ounce of matter can be created or destroyed. They just get transformed into energy. Energy gets transformed into matter. Matter gets transformed into energy. That is what is going on. Well, if that is the thing, that nothing can be created or destroyed, then we cannot call creation as a real creation. It's only a manifestation from the unmanifest state. What was potentially there, well, comes into manifest state, and well, at the time of dissolution goes back to the unmanifest thing. And this unmanifest names and forms in Brahman. Brahman is a substance. The unmanifest names and forms before creation in Brahman is called Maya. So Brahman plus Maya means Brahman plus unmanifest names and forms. That becomes the cause. We call Ishvara. And therefore, this Maya has two powers. One is a Vikshepa Shakti and the second is a Avarana Shakti. Well, and at the time of creation, the Vikshepa Shakti operates and the Avarana Shakti does not operate at the cosmic level. So, well, and therefore, just the Vikshepa Shakti of this Maya or Ishvara, let us say, operates at a cosmic level, and therefore Ishvara is not affected by the Avarana Shakti, because only Vikshepa Shakti operates, and from those things which are unmanifest only start manifesting. And therefore Ishvara is not affected by Avarana Shakti. Well, and but what is the responsible from for the manifestation from unmanifest? Well, the karmas of the jivas determine the time of creation. And so during dissolution, all this sanchita etc. are dormant. So when a portion of the sanchita karma of the entire jiva rashi is ready to fructify into the prarabdha karma, well, the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya becomes operational, and the Vikshepa Shakti makes this unmanifest names and forms into manifestation, which we call creation. So all these 5 elements, 14 lokas, the gross bodies, the subtle bodies, etc., all this which we call names and forms, non-substantial, comes into manifestation. And there is only one substance behind all these non-substantial names and forms, and that is Satchit or Satchidananda. Like a pot which is name and form manifest from the clay, the substance is only clay. Only non-substantial part called pot is name and form. And therefore, the original substance, as you say, well, which is the only substance behind all these non-substantial names and forms, is Brahman. And Vikshepa Shakti will operate, well, definitely until the creation of an individual jiva. I mean, getting gross body and subtle bodies, etc. And so the individual jiva is created till then the Maya's Vikshepa Shakti or Brahman's Vikshepa Shakti, either you say, because Maya is non-separate. Unmanifest names and forms are there in the substance, like the unmanifest pot is there in the substance called clay. Same way, unmanifest all names and forms, well, which is there in Brahman, which we call Maya. Well, they operated because of all the Jiva Rashi's karmas are manifestation, are ready for the manifestation from the Sanchita. And so till the Vikshepa Shakti goes, till the individual Jiva is there. I mean, getting the gross body, subtle body, etc. Now let's come to this. This individual Jiva, it consists of three seers. The first, when the Jiva, when you and me as an individual use the word I, let's analyze this. When we use the word I for indicating myself, well, it does not refer to a single seer. Well, because there are three seers which are inseparably present in this, together in this individual. One is seer, is the real seer that we call Sakshi, of course, which we'll be discussing at a length in the 10th chapter. And so one seer, I will call it as a seer number 3, the Sakshi, the real seer, the original seer, you can say, that is present. But that seer is there, but it cannot use the word I. Naturally, because to use the word I through the mouth, the Sakshi should have a mouth. Sakshi is free from all the limbs, is Niravayavam, and therefore definitely Sakshi cannot use the word I. Neither the seer number 2 called mind also use the word I. Well, to use the word I by the mind has to be conscious. Basically, mind is an inert entity. Therefore, independently, the mind which is inert cannot say I. The very word I indicates there is a consciousness. And therefore, well, the mind also, the seer number 2 also cannot use the word I. And also the mind cannot use the word I because it needs a mouth. And therefore, independently, mind is telling I. No, it's not possible. I'm saying here, when we use the word I, what is that entity which is saying I? Sakshi cannot say. Seer number 3 cannot say, because to use the word, well, definitely requires a mouth, also requires a mind, but so Sakshi is free from mind and even the senses, and therefore cannot say. Mind, seer number 2 also cannot say the word I, because it needs a mouth, and well, mind itself also being inert cannot say I. It needs a Sakshi. Therefore, mind also, seer number 2 also cannot independently use the word I. Mouth, the seer number 3, which is using the word I, cannot say independently I, because it needs a mind. To say I, you need to have a ahamvritti. So you require a mind. And well, also you require Sakshi, consciousness. And therefore, when you and me use the word I, definitely it's a conglomerate of 3 seers. And so, definitely, and then, well, what happens is, we should understand that I am a composite entity consisting of seer number 1, seer number 2, and seer number 3 inside. Okay? Inside. Seer number 3. Pratyagatma. Inside. Like that. Anyway, so 3 seers. Of these 3 seers, seer number 1 and seer number 2, the senses and the mind, well, are the products of Maya, the Vikshepa Shakti, because senses are created, mind is created, subtle body, created. And they function, of course, through the gross body. They cannot independently function. And therefore, of course, physical body is included. So basically, the seer number 1 and seer number 2, both are products of Vikshepa Shakti of Maya or Maya. Anyway, so when I say I should be aware that the seer number one, the mouth that says the word, and the seer number two called mind that has the thought corresponding to that word are non-tangible names and forms. Because what comes out, various names and forms, are non-substantial. I have already talked to you. And therefore, the seer number 2 and seer number 1, seer number 1 and seer number 2, they are non-substantial names and forms. Very important to understand this, which I am going to connect with our Pancadasi little later. So definitely, and therefore it comes under non-substantial, therefore comes under mithya category. So the I, which is composite of the three seers, 1, 2 and 3 Sakshi, out of the three, well, definitely, when I use the word I, it is composite entity, but in that composite entity, three seers are there. Out of that, 2 seers are mithya. Seer number 1, seer number 2. The mouth, instead of mouth, I could have taken eyes also, right, in senses, because you are really a seer there. But I am purposely using the mouth because we all the time use the word I. And when teacher is going to tell a Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, you are going to say, hopefully, that I am Brahman. Then what is that I? When you use the word I, we should definitely understand what is this I. I is all the time composite entity consisting of 3 seers, out of which 2 are mithya. Seer number 1, seer number 2. The Sakshi is all the time, which is seer number 3, is the Satyamsha. So anyway, Shankaracharya ji calls this as a Anrutamsha in the Dhyasa Bhashyam, seer number 1 and seer number 2. Seer number 3 is not a name and Namarupa, product born of Maya's Vikshepa Shakti. In fact, that is a substance, that is Brahman. And so seer number 3 is a Satyamsha, the real part of I. Please understand, real part of I. So I am a mixture of real and unreal parts. So does the real part say I or unreal part say I? Who says I am Brahman? If suppose somebody asks, who says, well, I, the unreal part can never say by itself because it cannot exist independent of the Brahman, the substance. It's a non-substantial. And well, the Sakshi itself cannot say anything. Sakshi cannot use the word, cannot you have a thought. Yan manasana manute yena ahur manomatam. Yad vacha anabhyuditam yena vagabhyudate. Tadeva brahmattam vidhi. Therefore, it is free from mind and senses. Therefore, Sakshi also cannot use. Sakshi cannot say, I am Brahman. Neither the seer number 1, seer number 2, which is just a non-substantial thing, which cannot exist independently, cannot say, I am Brahman. And therefore, one who says this Aham Brahmasmi is a mixture. And so, definitely, out of this mixture, well, definitely, when I have 2 parts, I mean, one is the mithya part, and the mithya part is useful for transaction. Definitely. When you are a speaker to say I, or when you are a seer in terms of seeing through the senses and using your mind, which we call ahankara, which is basically useful for transaction. It has empirical reality. Since the mithya part is unreal, I should not claim it as a real I. That's it. So I have a higher part, means I is basically composite of unreal and real. I should not claim unreal as I. So, and the real I, well, is which transcends all transactions. Seer number 1, seer number 2, in presence of a Sakshi, definitely transact with the world. And therefore, that is which called ahankara. I will not be able to go for, in further detail into that, but I could say this much: the mind, which is seer number two, has a borrowed consciousness definitely to become a seer. The seer number one, called the senses, or organ of action, or our senses, well, they also become a seer on account of, ultimately, because the mind is seer. The mind is seer because ultimately the sakshi is one which lends consciousness. So seer number one and seer number two have a borrowed consciousness to become a seer. And seer number three is the real seer, the consciousness which is the nature. So anyway, but so the I, when I say I, it's a composite entity. Three seers are there. Two seers basically are pervaded by Chidabhasa, and one Sakshi is not pervaded by Chidabhasa, etc. It is consciousness, Chit only. So anyway, so seer 1, seer 2, combined together is there, useful for the transaction. And the Sakshi, which transcend all transactions, and that is how the mixture is. And that real I is the Sakshi, or here now, because we now use word Sakshi for that Brahman, so that real I is none other than this Satyamsha, Brahmanamsha. So if I know this truth, that I have these two components, unreal and real, then a mithya part is arrival to the, subject to arrival and departure, and a real part, which is eternal. If I understand this, then I am a Brahmagnani. That's it. So because basically the Chidabhasa, the seer 2, seer 1 has a Chidabhasa, the mind plus Chidabhasa is seer number 2. That Chidabhasa with the buddhi pervades even the senses becomes seer number 1. And definitely those, they arrive and depart. They arrive and depart. That is what our three states of experiences are. In two states of experiences, while Chidabhasa along with the mind and senses resolve in one state, two states they are there, of course. But when even the seer number 1, even the Chidabhasa with the buddhi does not pervade the senses, the seer number 1 also is not then in a dream state, then just a mind along with the Chidabhasa becomes a seer number 2 called dreamer. Even that also resolves, seer number 3 alone exists, which illumines even the absence of this seer 2 and seer 1. All. And therefore the Sakshi Spirit, which we will be discussing in chapter number 10. So anyway, so this is a reality about me. And so, I is a composite entity, I am just referring once again, in which seer 1, seer 2 is useful for transaction, which we call Ahankara. And the seer number 3, which transcends all transaction, which never arrive, never depart, free from all attributes, etc. Seer 1, seer 2 definitely has attributes naturally, because seer, hearer, etc. and also mind, if you consider varieties of the attributes. And therefore seer 1, seer 2 with all attributes, useful for transaction. Seer 3 transcends all transaction, free from all attributes. So basically, so if I know this truth that I have these two components, a mithya part subject to arrival and departure, and real part which is eternal, which is all the time there, I will have no samsara. And that right knowledge only will allow me to accept all these temporary conditions of the mithya part and not be affected by anything, and thus have no samsara. Now the individual, which I told you that the one due to the avarana shakti of the Maya. So when the jiva gets this body, mind, sense complex, and it manifests from the Maya, due to vikshepa shakti, these all things are created. And then at an individual level, this avarana shakti of Maya, becomes active. And therefore jiva doesn't realize the reality of himself, that he is a sakshi, and also does not realize the reality of the external world, that the substance is just Satchit, nothing else. Thus he doesn't realize it. He gives the names and forms as a reality. So he doesn't know himself, jiva doesn't know himself, due to the avarana shakti which operates at the individual level. Please understand this. Vikshepa shakti operates at the samashti level, because of which the whole creation has come. And then Avarana Shakti operates at the individual level. So when the Jiva manifests in this body, mind, sense complex, he remains ignorant. And out of this mixture, takes the seer 1 and seer 2 as the reality. Ahankara is the reality. Well, he doesn't know he is a Sakshi or Brahman Jagat Karanam. Brahman he doesn't know. So this is how, and therefore Ishvara is free from, naturally Ishvara is free from this Avarana Shakti, because only Vikshepa Shakti operates and creates everything. Ishvara becomes a Jagat Karanam, by that, through that Vikshepa Shakti of the Maya. And then once all the Jivas manifest with along with the body, mind, sense complex, the Avarana Shakti pervades. This is how we present like that. So I mean, is this really like that? Everything is happening slowly. Don't think that. It's just a model to explain. There is no model which is an ideal model in Vedanta. If someone goes by the model and really thinks this is happening, and then there is a reflection, and then everything, this is not true. Because when you take the model, ideal model or some real model, then there is a real creation. And then there is a real creation, and there is a question of this Brahman as a reality of whole creation right now. Jiva also will have to forget that he is Brahman, etc. because it's just a transformation. It is not true. So definitely the individual doesn't know this composition, that he is a mixture of Satyam and Mithya. And further, while the individual does not know what is Satyam and what is Mithya, and expects that definitely immortality, let us say, out of this mortal body, because now he has identified, or let us say the seer 1 and seer 2 he has taken as a real because of the Avarana Shakti. He doesn't know he is a Sakshi, seer number 3. And therefore, while he identifies with the body, naturally, that's what it is. And so seer 2, seer 1 means this is an individual, of course. Seer 3, he doesn't know the reality of himself, and so he takes himself as a seer 1 and seer 2. And so, and therefore, he feels mortal because the body is mortal, and definitely seeks a immortality also. That's called samsara. Seeking immortality is samsara. Why should you seek? If you are immortal, why should you seek immortality? That's a samsara. What you already have and you are seeking outside is samsara. That's what it is. With a simple definition. Some people think samsara means having one wife and 5 children. No, nothing. Samsara means you seek something which you already have. It's as simple as this. The 10th man is a samsaric, unless that old person or a sannyasi or some person comes and tells that you are 10th. Then samsara goes. Before that he was crying. So samsara includes shoka also, and samsara includes crying also, and everything. That's what it is. Samsara is seeking something which you already have. And that search continues. The seeking continues. The seeker continues. Seeker seeking continues. And that is called life of becoming. The seeker becomes something else. Then again becomes something else. And one life is not enough. In this, in this geological time, one life is not enough. So Bhagavan gives another body. Now Bhagavan gives third body. We call Janma Maranam. And that is called also samsara. All this is samsara. Samsara is a very, very broad definition. So, definitely, and of course, then you seek, main akela hoon, then I am a lonely person, I should have a jaya. Jaya means syat. Let me have a jaya, wife and this and that. That also is a part of samsara, okay? So, that is also not just a family, but seeking something, what you are seeking really through the family is also samsara. So please don't feel bad. I'm just saying in general how the samsara means this. Seeking something which you already have. And that is so, it is so evident. It is so evident. What I am seeking I am not getting. Because I seek outside. If I seek outside, which I already am, I am having, or I am, in the form of I am, one cannot succeed in this life. Definitely not. This is the basis of the Vedanta. Anyway, and therefore, so immortality, seeking immortality. Then seeking immortality through exercises and through a bunch of tablets and through bunch of something else. And thinking all day about the food, and thinking, forget about it now. It's so this whole thing is a samsara. That's how the person who has solved the problem, he really finds the whole creation and the people in general and their activity and all that funny, because it's a fun for him, because the people are running here and there. So Khandanji went to Bombay once for some in Prem Kutir, and then people were, he was taken in some car on that Marine Drive, and and then he at one place, particular place, the traffic signal, and so it took a long time, of course. Then he was seeing people are running here and there on the footpath and the cars and all. So he said, for what they are running here and there? For what they are running? In search of what? Because the people who know that they are all searching something which they already have, so they find it very funny. They really find it very funny. Anyway, so this the ignorance on part of the individual, that out of the mixture, he should claim what is the real I, that is Sakshi. These two are appearances, coming and going. Really, seer 1, seer 2 resolves, ahankara resolves. And so what appears and goes and disappears, he is to claim that as a real I, the Jiva. Well, that's due to Avarana Shakti of Maya. That's due to Avarana Shakti of Maya. And so after Jivas are all created, this Avarana Shakti starts operating, covers the Jiva with the concealing power. There is no concealment, of course, for Ishvara at the macro level. And Avarana Shakti operates only at a micro level, Jiva level. So instead of claiming the real I, the Sakshi, the individual claims as unreal mind, sense organs, etc., and mistakes himself to be those and takes the identity as real and expects perfection at that level. And perfection at the 3 levels are not possible. Not only that, Vidyaranya says all the 3 shariras with which he has identified as seer 1 and seer 2, due to the Avarana Shakti of the Maya, that those 3 shariras will never be free from Jivara, free from the issues. Because, why? Because the Sukshma Sharira and the Sthula Sharira have been arisen from Brahman with that Maya, due to karmas. And therefore, some lot of the Sanchita has fructified. That's how creation has happened. And therefore, both the bodies definitely are born of this karma, and therefore they will all the time have issues. All the time. So the 3 shariras can never be free from Jivara. That's what he said. Anyway, because karma controls, and of course Karana Sharira also have all these vasanas, etc. How vasana? Because it is avidya. Avidya, Avarana Shakti is anadi. How Avarana Shakti is anadi? Well, it is part of Maya. And Maya is anadi. Maya is anadi. There is no Brahman. Brahman plus this Mithya Maya is all the time there. So Avarana Shakti is all the time there. And therefore, due to Avarana Shakti, all these vasanas, etc., and the karmas and everything will be also anadi. Everything anadi. The very kartrutvam is anadi, the sense of individuality is anadi, everything is anadi. And therefore, the Karana Sharira itself also has several issues. But, what is born of karma, from the Sanchita, what has come in form of prarabdha, both these bodies will be under the jaws of karma. And therefore, karma controls both this. And the very Karana Sharira is the center of this all issues ultimately, vasanas and karmas, everything. And therefore, and avidya, of course, also, Karana Sharira means Avarana Shakti, that also is an issue. And therefore, all the 3 bodies will never be free from Jvara. So, as long as the individual takes himself to be this mithya part, identifying with the body, mind, sense complex, of course. As I told you, let me tell you a little more. This seer number 2, well, where the consciousness manifests, and then, well, definitely the mind endowed with the Chidabhasa pervades the gross body also, and also the senses, the Golakas, and therefore now, and due to this Avarana Shakti, now this, the I, which has only unreal part, but he takes it as a real part. So body, mind, sense, he takes himself to be a body, mind, sense complex individual, and well, and he will suffer from this prarabdha also. He becomes a slave of it. Prarabdha karma can never be the master. So as long as the individual takes himself to be this mithya part out of this conglomerate, he will have a problem. Seer 1 and seer 2 can never be saved from karma. So jara, body can never be saved from karma in any birth. So instead of trying to rescue the seer 1 and seer 2, one should disidentify from them. Not claim them as a real I, but elevate oneself to the level of seer number 3, the Sakshi. That is my reality. So when you say I am Brahman, that person knows, even though the word I has a composite entity of all the 3 seers, well, but I am really only Sakshi. He ignores the unreal part out of the mixture. And that is to be done. This is called Jnanam. And therefore, Ajnanam and this consequent mixing up of is the cause of Jvara, Anujvara. Anujvara means identifying. Identifying with what is mithya. Identifying with what is temporary. Temporary. It's all temporary. The Chidabhasa is temporary, the body, mind, sense complex is temporary, that identification called Ahankara, etc. is temporary. Well, they appear, disappear, we know also, that is our experience also. And therefore, let me drop. I will be always a mixture till the prarabdha is there, but let me drop these 2 which are really not I. In reality, the I, the real seer, third, the seer 3, the Sakshi, alone is my nature, which never goes, never comes. So, and this is this Jnanam, and identifying with the Sakshi as a reality, well, is called moksha, is called freedom from Anujvara. So this is what I wanted to convey. And now let's go to verse number 229. And so, as I told you, Vidyaranya gave some general remarks regarding Jvara. And those remarks I am first narrating to you. First, there are 3 points in this. What he says is very important thing, which is the 3rd point anyway. So all the shariras, the first point, regarding Jvara, all the shariras have one or other Jvara in one or other degree. Now I need not have to say, because we have already discussed, because it's arisen due to karma. So all the shariras have one or other Jvara in one or other degree. So there is no question of an absolute freedom from all Jvaras for this Sharira Traya. We are including Karana Sharira also. And so if you are really seeking a freedom from this Jvara or freedom from the problems, while still identifying with all the 3 Shariras, it is impossible. Becoming free from all the problems, identifying with the 3 bodies is impossible. Because all the 3 bodies will have a problem all the time. That's the first point. Second point is, the next thing, which of course is the definition of Anujvara. So, well, because of my identification with the Shariratraya and the Jvaratraya, naturally 3 Jvaras, also 3 types of Jvaras, conclusion is, I have got Jvara. Due to that Avarana Shakti, please remember that. Avarana Shakti of the Maya, I feel that I have a Jvara. So the conclusion, the self-judgment is called anujvara. Sharira has a jvara, but your conclusion that I have a jvara is called anujvara. Identifying with the three bodies and naturally identifying with the three types of jvaras also, because all the three bodies will have a jvara all the time. So definitely, the second point is my conclusion, self-judgment, that I have a jvara, I have a problems. Problems belong to the body, which can never be avoided at any time. But you say I am having a problem due to the avarana shakti of the Maya, not knowing my real nature, that I am a seer. Number 3, the Sakshi, that's the reality of me. These other two are just appearing and disappearing because of me. The seer 1, seer 2, well, they exist due to seer number 3. Well, and their existence, their illumination, etc., all due to the seer number 3, which never goes, never comes. That's the reality of the word I, due to the viveka, etc., ahankara atma viveka, ahankara sakshi viveka. If you don't know this, then you definitely will have a self-judgment, and that is, I have a jvara. Then that self-judgment is called anujvara. Body has a jvara. Your judgment that I have a jvara is called anujvara. So this is the thing. Sharira jvaram anu. Following the jvara of the body. So you judge yourself. So Vedanta defines samsara as a anujvara. There is no other remedy for getting rid of all the problems or for getting rid of all the jvaras other than dropping the this self-judgment that I have a problem. So Vedanta focuses on this anujvara naturally. And it is, as I told you, it is intellectual problem, it is a cognitive issue to judge that I have a problem, etc., which we call mohaha, adhyasaha, and the solution is this gaining knowledge that I am not suffering from any jvara, I am just a sakshi. Well, and this separation is in terms of understanding, changing patterns of thinking naturally. So this is second thing. What is anujvara? First thing I told you, what is jvara? First point. Second point is what is anujvara. Third point, this is very, very unique. Vidyaranya conveyed very important message. He said, even this Chidabhasa also, I mean the mind which is conscious now, the senses which are conscious, the body which is conscious, sentient, that Chidabhasa also, which is of course a avatar of this Sakshi, well, does not have a jvara at all. Body has a jvara, definitely. Body has a jvara, but the Chidabhasa which is present in the body, well, the Chidabhasa itself also has no jvara. The subtle body has a jvara. Mind has a jvara, but the Chidabhasa present in the mind has no jvara. The Chidabhasa, well, along with that mind, which is why I use the word Dampati. Dampati, because they cannot be separated. You can't think of a mind without the Chidabhasa. You can't think of a Chidabhasa without mind. They both will exist all the time. In all the cycles of creation, they will be there. Their separation, this couple separation, will be only for a Jnani after Prarabdha is over. That's it. That's it. Otherwise, this Dampati will all the time there. If you can't think of Chidabhasa without medium called mind, you can't think of a mind without Chidabhasa. Why? But because mind basically will be free from Chidabhasa. So why must have gone somewhere and mind is alone? No, that won't be. All pervading consciousness, well, which is Brahman, from that only, well, through Maya, this mind has manifested, the subtle body is manifested. So it's all the time endowed with consciousness called Chidabhasa. Like you cannot separate a reflection of a space from mirror. You can separate reflection of a Swami from the mirror. You take away the mirror, then my reflection won't be there. But all pervading space continues to get reflected in the mirror. And so therefore mind will be all the time endowed with this consciousness, Chidabhasa, called Ahankara, called Jiva. That's how we say Jiva also is Anadi, etc. Anyway, and therefore But that Chidabhasa, which is present in the mind, present in the body, present in the senses, because of which the body also is sentient right now, just due to Chidabhasa, not consciousness. Ultimately we say consciousness, but this body is sentient due to Chidabhasa. Anyway, therefore, that Chidabhasa also, even the body has a problem due to karma, gross body. The subtle body has a problem. The senses also has a problem. Of course, the born of karma. Body has a jvara. Any body has a jvara. But the Chidabhasa which is present in the body is free from the jvara. That is a unique contribution of Vidyaranya. We have never heard of this thing. That Chidabhasa itself is a problem, free from the problem of the jvara. So if Chidabhasa does not have any jvara, where is a question of a sakshi? That's what it is. And then they give an example. Ordinary sunlight, well, is not afflicted by anything in which it gets reflected. Ordinary sunlight, which is reflected in a mud, water, or anything, will never become dirty or polluted. So definitely, if sunlight cannot get polluted, well, due to that sewage water or anything, so there is a question of our reflection of the consciousness get polluted by this pollution of the or jvara of the body or the mind or senses. Anyway, if Chidabhasa has a jara, then suppose let's think Chidabhasa has a jara, then we should say now fourth type of problems. Three bodies have different types of jaras, and now fourth, Chidabhasa has his own issues also. That's not happening. That is not has been discussed anywhere. Only bodies will have a jvara. And therefore, but because of our misunderstanding, we take the Chidabhasa also endowed with the problems. So anyway, so Chidabhase api, even in this Chidabhasa, this reflected consciousness, etc., jvaras are Chidabhase api prakasha eka svabhavatvam eva drashtam na chaitarat. So this consciousness which is reflected in these three bodies, etc., that itself is free from the jvaras of or the problems of the three bodies. Prakasha eka svabhavatvam. Chidabhasa is just a prakasha. Why they have used this word, Because the ordinary sunlight is a bhautikam prakasham. And the water in the dirty water, the sewage water, suppose, is also bhautikam. Still, that ordinary sunlight which reflects in that dirty water, both are bhautikam. Both are, right? Naturally. Well, still that the sunlight which is reflected in that water, even though they belong to the same order of reality, bhautikam also, still it is not affected. Then there is a question of prakasha eka svabhavatvam. There is a question of this abhautika prakasham. Chidabhasa is the abhautika prakasha. And while it gets reflected into this bhautika vastu, mind, body, etc., cannot have any problems. It's independent of that. So this is verse number 229. Let's go to verse number 230. This actually we have done, but the whole class has gone in only this. So I wanted this, how the problem of the samsara has arisen. That is, for that purpose we have discussed this jvara and anujvara in that context. Verse number 230. Chidabhasepyasambhavya jvara sakshinika katha evamapekata mene chidabhaso hyavidyaya. So he is using a kaimutika nyaya. He discussed that Chidabhasa has no problem. Then what is a kaimutika nyaya? Kimuta. Then what to talk of? Sakshi. That's what it means. So jvaraha Chidabhase api asambhavyaha. Sam plus bhu dhatu is there, and this is a causal, potential passive participle. So, jvaraha Chidabhase api asambhavyaha. Asambhavyaha means they are not possible. Remotely also not possible, not existent. Jvaraha, all these issues are not possible. For what? Chidabhase api, well, they are not there for the Chidabhasa. Then what to talk of this sakshi, etc. Shakshinika katha. What to talk of this sakshi, etc. But anyway, so because but why the Chidabhasa looks to the have some issues? Well, so this is the truth that a Chidabhasa cannot be affected by the problems or the jvara of the three bodies, but still Ekatam Maine, well, Chidabhasa identify with this Shariratrayam. Why identifies? Okay, if it doesn't identify, you separate it. You can't separate. You can't separate a given body and Chidabhasa. You cannot separate physical body and Chidabhasa. You cannot separate the subtle body, mind and Chidabhasa. You cannot separate the senses and Chidabhasa. You can't do. I told you Dampati. So therefore they all the time exist together. And therefore it is likely under the Avarana Shakti of Maya will take even to take the Chidabhasa with the issues is very, very understandable. Identification is very understandable. Ekatam means this identification. So evam api, even though this is the truth, the Chidabhasa cannot be affected, Ekatam Chidabhasa identified with the Sharirtraya, and instead of claiming oneself as a Sakshi, well, identify with the body and takes the jvaras of the bodies also as jvaras of oneself. And then he says, I have a problem. That is called samsara, anujvara. So, and he clearly mentions now, you see, avidyaya mene, avidyaya, because of avidya. Because of avidya means now you bring this, because of the avarana shakti of Maya. If you want to add both, you can. Because of the Vikshepa Shakti and Avarana Shakti. Vikshepa Shakti has, due to that, of course, everything has manifested from Brahman. Brahman as a substance, and all these names and forms, non-substantial thing have emerged due to Vikshepa Shakti. And well, then the Avarana Shakti at the individual level has covered the nature of oneself as well as the nature of the Jagat. And so this is called avidya. Let's say because of this avidya or the Avarana Shakti, the Maya has created this issue. And then, well, what is the thing then? Chidabhasa has a two option. Chidabhasa has two options. Either it can go with these three bodies, or well, it can understand that I am not Chidabhasa, I am basically like a sun, the reflected sun can go along with the water, or reflected sun can say, well, this is just a medium. I manifest here, but I am basically original sun. So that is in the hand of a Chidabhasa to say. So Ahankara can go along with the three bodies, or Ahankara can go with the original seer number 3, okay, Sakshi. Because very Ahankara is possible due to Sakshi. Anyway, but he voted for the wrong party, and that is how the whole issue has come. Voting it to a wrong party brings wrong people on the power. Verse 231. Sakshi satyatta madhyasya svenopeteva pustraye tat sarvam vastavam swasya swarupamiti manyate. Okay. Some further mischief by this Avarana Shakti, and that mischief which has made the issue worse, and that we will see next time on Wednesday. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.